you saw value. You saw value, and you aligned yourself with the value that you knew was going to be in this moment, and you chose your own price, your own energy exchange. And so I love you for that as well. For everyone else that got here any other way, if you went to Brian Hyppolite and picked your price, or if you chose the prices, chose the general mission or VIP, whatever it is that you did, or if you just here because I love you and I wanted you in the room, man. Thank you so much for being present. And I've been saying I'm just going to start with a little bit of the Q&A at the top of the class and a little bit at the bottom. So let's start. Let's get into it. I got so much information to give you. I'm trying to sit down, but I'm really excited and I really want to stand up and move around. But let's start with some Q&As for those who have either read the book, have read the ebook, or just have some general questions about about the subject that we're discussing tonight. Feel free to come unmuted and or raise your hand or, in the chat if you know how to do that on Zoom. I call on you or just come unmuted. We gonna get it started with the Q&A session. And if we don't have any questions, that's cool too, because I can just jump into teaching because I got some things to teach you and to talk about this evening. But I definitely want to give you an opportunity to ask some questions if you have any. Does anybody have any questions to start with?
Oh, I don't have a question per se. Good night, everyone. Hey, Brian. But I just want to say that I'm excited to be here and just to learn a little bit more about the, different parts of the book and what you thought gravitated to you because I haven't finished this, but I've read like I would say at least a fourth of it, and it's like I don't it's so much in there. Like it's so deep. Like I feel like I have to reread every page over and over again, which is why I can't even get finished with the actual book. So I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but it's really a good book. It really, really is. And it's very deep and very impactful. So I'm just excited to be here. That's all I got for now. I might have questions after.
Thank you so much, Rondell. Rondell is an amazing friend and mentee of mine. There are some of y'all in here that is just such a pleasure to work with and to just see the growth taking place in your life and in your businesses and just the alignment happening to take place is exciting for me to witness. So thank you so much for that, Rondell. Oh, Bina, I see you in here. What's going on, Bina?
What's up? Hi, Rondell. Hi, everyone. Rondell, I didn't read the book yet, but if it's anywhere deep like his brain, like 111 keys, then you need a therapist afterwards. You need a
Yes, it
therapist.
is. It is. It's
You're like,
really,
what just
really
happened
thought
to me?
provoking. Yeah.
Yes, like what just happened? Why am I thinking this and feeling this? And how do I need clarity. Yeah.
That's why we're here. That's what's up, Obina. Thank you so much. Because and both of y'all are right. Like there's this subject matter is so deep, and the book is really light. This is the thinnest book that I've ever written. It's only 55 pages, but it's so much information in it, and so that's why it's so small, because it was like this is so impactful. I don't want to be overwhelming. And even as I've been reading out of the book on lives and stuff like that, it's just like one page got so much good information and then asks you such great questions. And it's that reflection that's really powerful. So one more time, anybody got any questions before we get started?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Marcus, what's happening, brother?
Uh, how you doing, brother?
Man, I'm blessed. I'm highly favored. I'm here.
Indeed, man. It's truly a blessing. Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus Jones. I wanted to tap in on that. I haven't read this book yet, but I'm excited to purchase it and read it as well. I have every other book that he has blessed us with out here. But this is the one I don't have, and I'm looking forward to getting it. Also, I seen Miss Brooke Shane in here. Her book is outstanding as well, guys.
Yeah.
Thicker. So I'm gonna do that quick plug real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get that book. That book is it's a good read, guys. I couldn't stop reading it. So yeah, I'm excited. If this book is like any of the other books, hey, I'm locked in already. So, but I will be purchasing to my Bloodline Breaker here soon, possibly tonight or first thing in the morning.
Look, bro, use the discount code BREAKER. It is
Okay.
going to save 20% at BrianHyppolite.com for the next 24 hours. That's one of the thank you gifts I'm giving to y'all for being present. Discount code BREAKER saves you 20%. So definitely use that. And yeah, big shout out to Brooke Shane. She got another book. She got another book like that's about to drop. But yeah, Sticker. Y'all go get that. It's a wonderful urban fiction story that it will have you, like you said, like you just ain't want to start reading. And I remember getting into it, getting on the plane, and like the whole flight from the East Coast to the West Coast, I was just in, I was deep in that book. So, and she is the 28th person that I've been able to walk through this process of becoming a first time author. And Marcus is the 29th. Marcus got a book that is going to be dropping and probably, you know, in less than 90 days. He's about to get started with his pre-sales and go through all that. So there's a lot of talent, there's a lot of passion, a lot of purpose in this room. And I love y'all supporting each other. Thank y'all for supporting me. Nobody had any questions though. I appreciate all the love for sure. I
Well,
appreciate
I have a question.
I appreciate all
Excuse
the
me.
love.
yeah.
Hi, my name
Anybody
is
have a question?
Michelle. My name is Michelle, and I was wondering, do you get the book? Can you get the book that you wrote and on Amazon? Or do you have to order it from you?
It is available on Amazon. All of
Okay.
my books are available on Amazon. If you do purchase it from me, I normally will send you the ebook as well to incentivize that, so that I'm able to get the profits at BrianHyppolite.com instead of sharing it with Amazon. But it is definitely available on Amazon, and if it's something that you want to have in your hands in the next 24 to 48 hours, and they can do that for you, go ahead and go
Yes.
go through
Yes, that's what
Amazon.
I was looking for. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And here's my question.
Okay.
What are you looking for the people to take away from this book, to receive and take away from it?
A new identity.
Okay.
A new identity, brother. I think as the outcasts and as the black sheeps in our families, which many of us who now identify as the generational curse breakers and the bloodline breakers in our family, at some point in time, you know, we've had that or assumed that identity of the black sheep. And really what it is that, you know, we are the prototype of something new and something greater. And I think this from this class and what I'm going to talk about and the way I'm going to expand on that in this class is definitely going to empower you to champion that identity of the one that's different. You know,
Mm.
there's so many ways that it's been coined and so many things that we call it, but it's really a lot of power in that. And you know, we just have to reframe the way that we're looking at it. So I think that's the biggest takeaway that I'm looking forward to.
Okay. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, y'all. Anybody else before we get into it?
I have a question.
Yes, Miss Shane. How you?
So I'm good. How are you?
I'm amazing. So yeah, so I'm gonna be the only one on camera. Ain't nobody else coming on camera.
No, but my question is, I know you said this is one of your shortest books, but
Mm-hmm.
you have it packed with a lot of gems. So
Sure.
because you made it a little bit smaller and packed so much punch into this book, do you feel like you'll come out with maybe a second volume to this for people who have taken the lessons and gems from this one and want to apply it and continue to build on it?
Absolutely. It was actually, and that's a phenomenal question. It was actually written as a much deeper dive. So what wound up coming into the book was really just pieces of that. So that second book that goes a lot deeper into it is already completed. You know how I am. I'm big on content proliferation. I'm going to create that large piece of content and then trim the fat, and you know, and then decide what is most important to be most impactful. So that's what actually got into the book. So yes, that bigger volume of this that goes into more depth and detail, that's already created and already, ready to go when the people ready for it. Yeah. Very great questions. Thank you so much for them. And again, thank you so much for being present. So I want to get into it because I've been thinking about this class and designing it for a while. So I have so much information. Earlier I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna get through all of this. But this is how the class is going to flow. We're going to talk about awakening. We're going to talk about some truth. We're going to talk about some science. We're going to talk about alignment. We're going to talk about identifying as what we need to be in alignment with. And we're going to talk about the leadership that comes along with that. And then we're going to end with action. We're going to always have an execution plan. So everything that I bring to you, I'm going to bring you these three things: the awakening, which is the truth behind it; the alignment, which is what we need to be doing to be able to grow from it; and then the action, the way that we're going to execute that. So let's be clear as we start this today. You were not born to be like them. You were not born to fit into the family group chat, to laugh at the same tired jokes, to pass down those same broken lessons that kept them stuck. I believe many of you know by now, if you're here, that you were born to be the one that makes them uncomfortable a little bit. The one that says no when everyone else nods along. The one who refuses to keep the secret. And that's why they call you the black sheep. And I grew up with that. And I remember hearing this as if it was an insult of some kind. I've grown and matured enough, and as I always say, just live a little longer. I've lived a little longer, and I've learned that the black sheep is the blueprint. So here's the truth. Most of our family would have preferred that we stayed broken, not because they're bad people, not because they're evil, but because your healing shines a light on the fact that they haven't done theirs. Your ambition exposes their complacency, and your discipline dismantles their excuses. So when you stand up and you say, "It ends with me," you are declaring war on centuries of programming, patterns, and pain embedded not just in your family's culture, but in your DNA. You're not just breaking a cycle, you're breaking biology. You're interrupting trauma that's been running on autopilot from generations. This is the most important work you will ever do, because if you don't heal it, you hand it down. Your silence becomes your children's suffering. Your avoidance becomes your children's addictions. Your denial becomes their disorders. So I need you to understand, this is not just self-work. This is soul work. This is spiritual warfare disguised as emotional labor. So today we're going to talk about what really matters when we talk about being a bloodline breaker. The burden, the battle, the becoming. And I promise you, if you'll make it to the end of this class, you will see yourself, your family, and your purpose in a new way. And you'll never see yourself the same again. This is not just going to be a motivational class, and I'm pretty sure you all know that. This is going to be a soul reminder, a soul reckoning, a divine confrontation with the role you were born to play. I want to start with reading you the dedication from the book, the Bloodline Breaker book. I read it this morning on IG Live, and it had the same effect that it did when I wrote it, and that was that tears started to form behind my eyes, because I know exactly what each and every one of these words mean, and I'm going to read it to you. Dedication to the generational curse breakers. This is for the ones who didn't wait to be chosen because they knew they were. For the ones who heard the whispers in their blood and decided to answer with a roar. For the ones who got tired of surviving and chose to create a legacy instead of living a lie. For the ones who felt the weight of silence, the sting of shame, and the ache of inherited pain, and still stood tall enough to say, it ends with me. This for those who cried in the dark, prayed in secret, and healed in pieces, but never gave up on the vision of freedom for the generations to come. You are not just healing yourself, you are rebuilding empires. You are rewriting bloodlines. You are reprogramming destiny. You are the first. You are the force. You are the revolution. This book was born for you because you were born for this. That's the intro. That's a dedication rather to you as a bloodline breaker, as that black sheep. Because the black sheep is not the reject. Again, you are the prototype. Every revolutionary leap starts with someone who stops following the flock. So every time they call you the black sheep, know that that's their own misunderstanding. It's not, because it's not a flaw. It's the evidence that you was built for something that they've never seen. Again, you are the prototype. You're the first of your kind. You're the one that refuses to accept that this is just how we are as a life sentence. The black sheeps are the ones that are bold enough to question the family's unspoken rules. Like, why are we always doing this? And why can't we talk about that? And why is it okay for us to hurt each other and call it love? You ask those type of questions. You've all experienced them reacting to us, saying things like, why have you changed? Why can't you just be normal? But what they call changing is returning to who you were before the programming. And what they call normal is toxicity. They're not mad that you've changed. They're mad that you stopped pretending along with them. But that's your role as the black sheep. You're not here to keep the family comfortable. You're here to make the family conscious. That's the part that's going to sting a little bit, because most of our family, again, would have preferred that you stay broken. Not because they want you to suffer, but because healing forces them to face the fact that they've never healed themselves. And if they can convince you to stay stuck, then they don't have to confront their own reflection. Does that make sense? So the transformation is taking place, going from rejection to the responsibility that comes along with being that black sheep blueprint. Being the black sheep comes with a price and a calling. You can't have one without the other. You will be excluded from certain conversations. You'll even be the topic of certain conversations. And you will certainly feel alone, even in a room full of relatives. But here's the shift. You weren't rejected. You were repositioned. You weren't moved outside of the circle so you could see the bigger picture. You were taken out of the herd so you could lead them to new ground. You weren't pushed out. You were placed higher. I want to give you a good example of a cycle breaker. This is someone, I want you to think of someone in your family who has quietly left the dysfunction. It looks different for different people. They go about it different ways, but maybe they moved to a new city. Maybe they started therapy, personal development. Maybe they started working on healing themselves and everyone else joked about it and mocked them for it. Maybe they built a business, started learning how to make their own money instead of clocking in and out and waiting for others to give them opportunities. And they were mocked for that as well. They may not be celebrated now, but watch how in years to come, their life paths become the new map that the rest follow. That's the reality of the black sheep. The family may laugh at you now, but your choices will become the blueprint they reference when they are ready to evolve. And I know it hurts. I know there's some moments that are definitely uncomfortable. And that's the part that most people don't talk about. Being the black sheep hurts because you want love and acceptance from the same people, but these are the same people that you're here to challenge. It's a tug of war between your heart's desire for connection and your soul's demand for elevation. I have a family member that I want to engage with, man. I want to hang around. I miss being with him. But the way that he lived, the way he kicked his game, I can't subscribe to. And the way that he runs his household, my children want to go and see their cousins, but I don't want them in that environment. I don't want them around these certain things. It's just tug of war, but there's still this place of a greater example that I have to set. And that means I can't fraternize the same way that I would have before understanding the responsibility that comes with this. So I need you to understand, and you can't have both. If your family refuses to rise with you, then you have to choose. And you have to choose. Do I keep shrinking so I could be invited over so that we can still have these moments? Or do I build this new table and I let the willing step up and come join? This is turning pain into power. This is where the black sheep becomes the leaders. Because when you stop trying to earn their acceptance, you start embodying your assignment, and everything changes. Your voice gets stronger, your visions get clearer, your boundaries become sacred. You stop needing validation from people still afraid of transformation. And once you hit that point, you're no longer the black sheep, you're the shepherd. If you remember nothing else from this part of the conversation, remember this: you weren't born to fit in. You were born to found something new. They might call you the black sheep today, but one day they're going to call you the blueprint. Let's move along, though. Let's talk about the biology of this. Because someone asked me an amazing question on IG Live, and they said, well, do you feel that our past, our generational trauma, and the things that we go through are affecting our lives today? Do you really believe that? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. There's so many things that we can look at that will give us that information. So let's get straight into it. If you were born into a family with unhealed trauma, you were born with a blueprint for survival, not a blueprint for success. As I said this recently, our grandparents were teaching our parents how to not die when they left the house. It was survival mode 1-on-1. It was like, do this, act this way so they don't kill you when you leave here. That was the environment that many of our parents were being groomed in. So then what did our parents do? They took the how to keep you alive and say, well, I want better for my children. So they started to teach us how to survive. It went from the bare minimum of staying alive to, okay, this is how you stay alive and how you can prosper to the best of your ability, surviving. Now look at us. We're a generation that have moved beyond that, and we are teaching our children, as we're learning ourselves, how to not how to survive, but how to thrive. So if you didn't come from that, then the blueprint that you were given was of survival, and that's not a blueprint of success. That's a blueprint of getting by. That's not a blueprint that was designed for you. It was a blueprint that was designed. It wasn't even designed by your parents. This is a product of generations of programming. And here's the kicker: it's written in your brain and in your body. I'm gonna give you a word that some of you may not be all too familiar with, and that's neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity. Before we go any further, let me design it for you. This is your brain's ability to rewire itself. I'm a music guy, so I can think of a big soundboard in the back of it having all these different plugs, and where you plug in here, then you plug it into there, and this plug is going to go to this speaker. This plug is going to go to this microphone. And I can always, when I think about this, I always envision the unplugging and replugging of your brain from one connection to another, and that's what neuroplasticity is. Think of your brain as a GPS that can create new routes if the old ones keep leading you to dead ends. And the roads that your brain's built are by repetition. So whatever you see, hear, and feel most often becomes the route that your brain takes automatically. So, and this is important to understand so you can understand what trauma does to the brain. When you grow up in chaos, your brain literally adapts to survive it. There's a few parts of our brain that it particularly impacts. There's the prefrontal cortex of your brain, the top part, and this is the part of your brain that's responsible for your planning, your decision making. And that part of your brain becomes weaker when dealing with trauma, when impacted by trauma. And that's why people from high trauma backgrounds often struggle with long-term planning, because that part of the brain has become weaker. Now, you also have the amygdala. This is a part of your brain that is your brain's fear center. This part of your brain becomes overactive, and that's why you overreact to small stressors and live in a constant state of alert, because your amygdala has been overstimulated and used to being overstimulated. So even when it does not have to be, it's waiting to be, and it's reacting as if it's overstimulated. These are the effects of trauma on your brain. There's another part, the hippocampus. This is where your memory, this is your learning center, it all shrinks. And that's why it's hard for people to remember positive experiences and easier for them to remember the negative ones, because your negative experiences force this part of you to shrink. So this isn't just how you are, this is the biology built from an environment. So hear me when I tell you, you are not broken. You are just wired for a war that ended before you were born. And this is why change feels unnatural. Because have you ever tried to stay calm in an argument when you're used to yelling? Have you ever have you ever tried to be the calm in a chaotic situation when you're used to being a part of the chaos? It almost feels wrong. It almost feels like you're going about this all the wrong way. And and the calm isn't wrong, but what it is that your brain's roads are built for shouting as a survival tool. I also want to give you this. I've heard someone say before that in an argument, well, first of all, this is the thing that made me stop arguing and made me say I never want to argue with anyone again. It said an argument is two people fighting to be the victim in a situation. An argument is two people rushing and fighting to be the victim in a situation. And I said, oh, yeah, I don't want to argue no more. I don't want to argue no more. But I also heard that in an argument, when someone is elevating their voice, it's because they don't feel heard. They don't feel heard. They don't feel that their words are connecting. So there's this innate programming within them to elevate their voice so that they can be heard. And I've thought about myself in arguments before, not feeling heard and then responding with elevating my voice. So, that's something to think about as you do your thing, and as you grow, and even as you observe the behaviors of other people. But the wonderful thing about this is when you change your behavior, you're not just fighting a habit, you're fighting the neurological history that you have. And again, the good news about all this is that you can rewire it. Your brain is not fixed. It can learn to adapt. It can be rewired at any age. Matter of fact, every time that you choose regulation over rage, you're rewiring. Every time that you choose to be present over panic, you're rewiring. Every time that you choose truth over denial, you're rewiring. Every time you choose creation over reaction, you're rewiring. You are literally rewriting the code in your brain. You're paving new roads where there used to be dead ends. And this is why daily intentional action matters, because your brain changes through repetition and through emotional impact. So I want to give you some examples of how to rewire your triggers. Let's say your trigger is hearing someone raise their voice. Your old rewiring says when voices are raised, that equals danger. So then your body floods with adrenaline and you go into fight or flight mode. Sound familiar? You know what I'm talking about? Drop a 1 in the chat if you know what I'm talking about. So I want to give you some tools on how to rewire these triggers and rewire the way that you deal with this, because we have to start responding and not reacting. So here's step number one of noticing, of reworking this rewiring, and that's notice the reaction without acting on it. So let's be present enough to notice the desire to react without acting on it. So it's here, it's real, we see it, we feel it, we're experiencing it, but we're not acting on it. So that's step one. Notice the reaction without acting on it. Step two is breathe deeply and remind yourself, I am safe in this environment. I am safe right now. And step three is to choose a calm response. And this is really where the power lies in knowing the difference between a reaction and a response. And I'm going to break that down for you in case you didn't know. A reaction is tied to whatever just happened, whatever just took place, whatever, that's why they call it knee jerk. Like it happens without any amount of planning. It can't even possibly, a reaction can't even possibly be the best option for you because you didn't even have an opportunity to think it through. It just happens. And it's directly related to whatever just took place. Now, a response is related to the result that you desire to see. The response is related to the plan that you had before this thing came into your stratosphere. You wanted a peaceful day. And then this thing happened that seemed to threaten it. Now you can react in alignment with that and certainly throw this piece out the window, or you can choose a response that redirects and reconnects you with that piece. Your response is connected to what you desire to see. And the moment that you stop reacting, you start responding to life, you get a whole lot more power in your pocket to do some things that you want to do. So do that often, and your brain is going to stop linking a raised voice to a threat. And it's going to start linking you to this opportunity to respond in a calm manner. I come from an environment where knowing how to stay calm definitely just determine whether you made it home or not sometimes. And not reacting to your environment dictated whether you survived in this another day in this environment or not. So it's something that, my environment taught me. No matter how chaotic it was, I didn't have the luxury of just reacting to whatever was going on, because I come from a place where the loss of life is the only thing that people believe sometimes. And so to survive an environment like that, we was learned, no, you just can't react to everything. You have to choose the response that's going to get you home. So, and this is emotional regulation. And this is a word that we hear all the time. People say all the time. And now it's just a buzzword we're hearing on all the podcasts and different things like that. And that normally means you really don't know what this means. That normally means that you hear it so much that you have assumed the meaning of it. So let me give you a solid definition of emotional regulation. Emotional regulation is the ability to manage and respond to your emotions in a healthy, measured way, instead of letting them control your actions. When you master emotional regulation, you stop letting past patterns run your present reality. And this is the bloodline breaker's advantage. You have a huge advantage as the one doing this work, because once you rewire yourself, you can teach it, as I'm doing. You can show your children, you can show your siblings, you can show your community how to reclaim their nervous system, how to calm their nervous system, how to make better decisions, and how to not let inherited fear dictate your life. I asked my mentee earlier, so if she has a decision to make and was throwing all these, well, what ifs, all this fear into the mix. And every what if, hey, cancel that one if. Every what if that pops into your mind, you need to replace it with an even if. That what if is connected to fear, which is the doubt and the belief in something negative that has not happened. That's your what ifs. Your even ifs, That is your faith. That is your connection to something positive that has not happened. And each and every day, at each and every moment, you have to choose which one is going to inhabit your being. You can't have both at the same time. You've never seen fear and faith at the same party. And the reason for that is because it's the same thing. It's the same thing. One is the positive belief in something that hasn't happened. One is a negative belief in something that hasn't happened. And you know what? And even biologically, since we're talking about the body, it's the same chemical that's released in your body when you are moving from a place of fear or you're moving from a place of faith. It's literally the same chemical reaction. And it's just your mind, your imagination, or your memory that decides and dictates whether in this moment you're going to use this chemical for a positive belief or a negative belief. If you are in Manifest Mentorship, which I definitely encourage you to be a part of, there's several amazing people in here that can vouch for the life-changing, legacy-changing benefits of the Manifest Mentorship program. If you were in Manifest Mentorship and we were having a one-on-one at this moment, I will walk you through this 3-step process that you can start right now to rewire yourself. So since we're here and since I love y'all, I'm going to give it to you. Okay? So the 3-step process is awareness, noticing the pattern. Then the second part of this process is to interrupt the pattern. Stop the automatic reaction. Stop this automated response. We have to interrupt that. And then we have to replace it with a new response that is aligned with who you want to be, who you are becoming, and the results that you desire to see in your life. And if you do this daily, consistency rewrites your brain faster than intensity. Write that down. Consistency rewrites your brain faster than intensity. If you've been telling yourself, this is just who I am, then you need to hear me. That's not who you are. That's who you were taught to be. Today is the day where you will rise up and become who you were meant to be, not who your pain, your struggles, your environments, your trials and your tribulations, your doubts and your disbeliefs have taught you to be, not who your fears have told you it's safe to be. This is the moment you decide to learn a new way of being. And guess what? Your brain will follow. You don't just break the curses in your heart, you break them in your biology. You hear what I'm saying? It's some good stuff. And I pray that you're taking notes and that you're taking it in. Now, let's talk about the most ignored curses in our bloodline. The one that people fight to protect, even while it keeps them poor. I like this one because this is financial slavery. Let's talk about some financial slavery real quick, y'all. Because the definition of it, right? A generational pattern where individuals and families remain trapped in cycles of debt, dependence, or survival-based decision-making, often without even realizing it, because they've inherited fear, ignorance, or shame around money. This isn't about the chains on your hands, family. This is about the chains on your minds, on your habits, and on your vision. This is what it looks like. We grew up hearing things like, we don't have money for that. Money don't grow on trees. Get you a good job with benefits and play it safe. Don't talk about what you got. That's rude. Different things like that. What was happening as we were saying that, or as we were hearing that? We were being programmed into financial survival mode. Because listen, as I've gotten around some 7-figure earners, 8-figure, 9-figure earners, listen, they talk about money. They talk about how they get in it. They talk about what they did that make them losers, so you don't do it. They talking about the play that got them where they wanted to go, and the one that they're working on now. They're talking in terms of wealth, in terms of movement, in terms of ideas, in terms of flow. And where we come from, there's not that. There's everything that stops that. That's the programming that was designed to keep you dependent on your employer, dependent on government assistance, dependent on the hope that somebody else in some way, shape, or form, physically or spiritually, is going to change your situation for you. We're here to break generational curses and create generational wealth. What is generational wealth, though? If that's what we're meant to create as the bloodline breakers, if that's what our responsibility is, let's have a strong understanding of what that means. Generational wealth is assets, resources, the knowledge passed down that allows each generation to start further ahead than the last. That's generational wealth. Wealth is not a dollar amount. Okay? Wealth is the accumulation or creation of sustainable assets. Wealth is not a dollar amount. Wealth is the accumulation or the creation of sustainable assets. And that's what the wealthy have. The wealthy have assets. And it's time for you, time for us to become the assets, first in our lives, then in our bloodlines, and in our communities. And as you become an asset and create more assets, listen, you're going to create some generational wealth along the way without trying. Just following the purpose. I've created some generational wealth just following the purpose instead of looking for the profits. So that's what we're here to do. Now, there's also ancestral money trauma. And this is emotional and behavior patterns around money, rooted in historical oppression, economic exclusion, or the family history of scarcity. So yes, we do have some money trauma, and it's so common. Our parents and our grandparents, they weren't dumb, they were surviving. If they lived through segregation, redlining, wage gaps, and economic discrimination, the safest options were for them to cling to the little that they had and avoid risks. But safe for them often means stuck for you. They were taught to survive, but you were born to multiply. Say that out loud right now. I was born to multiply. So that poverty mindset in action is going to say things like save a little, but never invest. Work harder instead of working smarter. It's going to tell you to celebrate your job anniversaries instead of asset anniversaries. I love these asset anniversaries that I get. Oh man, it's been 3 years since I put out this book. It's been 5 years since I dropped that affirmation album. It's been, X amount of time since Samara dropped her book. And on these asset anniversaries, you know what we're doing? We having a good time, and we probably creating another asset because it's just a lifestyle at this point. It's spending money on looking rich instead of on becoming rich. These are the poverty mindsets in action. See, we glorify sacrifice, but demonize strategy. We brag about how many hours we've worked, but stay silent about how much we've earned passively, and that's crazy to me. A bloodline breaker's role is to unlearn and rebuild. A bloodline breaker's role is to unlearn and rebuild. We must replace these fear-based money conversations with wealth-based money conversations. We must create systems that protect and grow what you earn. There are so many financial systems for you to strengthen yourself and your bloodline with. If there's different financial vehicles for you to protect yourself, your assets, and your heirs. If you are part of Manifest University, in a few weeks, we're going to be having a seminar, a class on life insurance, IUL policies, different, and the ways that the Rockefellers set up their family, of how every time someone is born and every time someone dies, the family gets wealth. There are financial systems and financial vehicles that will protect you, your heirs, and your assets, but you got to learn about them. And so as everyone that's a part of the mentorship, part of Manifest University, you'll have access to these classes that are coming up. We definitely going to make sure that as you are aligning with that greater version of yourself, that you are also getting the tools and tricks and tips that are going to allow you to strategize your investments and your assets. You know what I mean? But you got to be willing to be the weird one who invests instead of spending to impress. Yes, you will be criticized for it. You'll be called stingy, selfish, money hungry. But remember, in survival culture, anything that looks like long-term thinking is suspicious. Everyone's ready to do it for this weekend, but not ready to plan for a future. So this is what breaking the pattern looks like. Maybe in your family, tax refunds were treated like lottery tickets, lottery winnings, rather. Everyone would splurge and then be broke again by the summer. You can decide to use yours different. You can pay down those high interest debts that you have. You can start a business. You can invest in an asset, create something, or purchase something that is going to start making you passive income. That's something to do. Semi-passive or completely passive, get to it. Start thinking, and I'm just talking to you from future millionaire to future millionaire, and from entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Um, look into the consumer to the creator to consumer pipelines that allow you to get the things that you create directly to the people who want what you create. There are so many systems that would allow you to, a great one is like the pick your own price feature that I use on my website on brianhyppolite.com, allowing people who hear my music and feel this vibration to go and pick their own price. There are some of you in this room right now who, use the pick your price feature to get into this class, or use it for, for my music, allowing people to put their own price on something that they find value in, connects you directly to your consumer without a third party company telling you what your product is worth. So there's so many ways to go about that. And I could talk about getting money all day because that's one of my favorite conversations to have. So I'm gonna get back on topic. And we can definitely have some more getting money conversations. But as a bloodline breaker, you have to revolutionize the way that you think about money and the things that you do with your money. And that's why financial literacy is so important. Because you have to have the ability to understand and use various financial skills, including personal money management, budgeting, investing, and building credit. If you don't have these skills, you're not in control of your money is in control of you. And if we're talking about breaking out of anything, we're talking about obtaining freedom. And we can't obtain freedom if we're a slave to our financial habits. So I want to give you 3 money shifts for each and every one of you as a bloodline breaker. I want you this year to focus the next 48 weeks. I want you to be intentional, strategic, and focused on going from an earner to an owner. Ownership and equity is the language of kings and queens, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to stop trading all of your time for money and own things that will pay you while you sleep. Because let me tell you something. The wake up, when you waking up to money, the best part of waking up is that money they talking about. That cash register ring from Shopify? When I wake up to that, oh my gosh. What do y'all want? Let's go do it. Let's go. Let's go do it. What you had said you needed, let's go buy it. Let's go. Like, it's a whole different vibe. It's a whole different vibe. Man, there's some days you're gonna wake up. I pray this over every single one of y'all. I'm transferring this blessing into your life right now. You shall wake up with enough money to go back to sleep. You shall wake up. You shall wake up and just overnight have accumulated all the money that you needed to make in a day. My goal used to be $297 a day. $300 a day is the beginning of 6 figures a year. So that I remember when that was my goal, and every day that I could make $297 a day, we was getting a bottle of Bel Air and we popping some champagne. And we had a lot of champagne. We had a lot of champagne. I want to pour that blessing into your life, that you will wake up as the owner of some type of asset that is paying you while you sleep. Go from earner to owner. The next thing is we want to go from consumer to investor. We want to stop only buying things that lose value and put money into things that grow. Go from a spender to a steward. That's number 3. Stop thinking in days and start thinking in decades. You know what a steward is? Where that word comes from? In earlier times, when there was kings and queens and lords and maidens and dragons and, you know, all that, like Game of Thrones time, that period of time. The steward was the person who looked after all the king's assets. The steward was the person who would go and collect the king's debts and then report back to the castle and say, all right, this is what you have. This is what you can spend. This is what you need to invest. That was the steward, the person who was able to manage the assets. And you got to learn how to go from a spender to a steward. Stop thinking in days and start thinking in decades, and start making decisions for your great grandchildren, because they'll thank you for that. They'll thank you for that. Listen, every time that I need to do something health-wise that maybe I don't want to do, whether it's working out, eating something that tastes horrible but is great for my body, I put my grandchildren's faces in my mind and I envision watching them walking across a stage graduating. I don't know if they're graduating college, high school, whatever, but they're in pre-adult body, so it looks like a high school graduation, and I'm watching my grandchildren graduate from high school, and I put that image in my mind, and that motivates me to get past whatever I'm feeling in this moment that's taking me away from the motivation to do whatever is best for me to do in this moment. So stop thinking in this moment, stop thinking in days and start thinking in decades. It's going to change your decision making, okay? Wealth is not what you make, it's what you multiply. You might want to write that down. I want to ask you a couple of questions. What money beliefs did you inherit? What money, and you don't have to type the answer, you don't have to unmute yourself, but I want you to ask yourself, what money beliefs did you inherit? Which ones serve you and which ones sabotage you? Write those things down. As you identify the ones that don't serve you, write new beliefs that you'll choose moving forward. You know, a belief is a thought that you continue to think. Did you know that? Like, we believe in certain things and we kind of give it a lot of power, but a belief is nothing more than a thought that you continue to think, which means you could change your thoughts, which means you could change your beliefs. And your life is built off of your beliefs. Your life is the manifestation of your beliefs. If you don't heal your relationships with money, you will pass down your financial fears the same way your parents passed them down to you. Your children will either inherit wealth or they will inherit a lack of it. You will either inherit systems that worked for them or they will inherit the job applications you left behind. You are the ones who decide which it will be. So you're not just leaving money, you're leaving mindset, and that's extremely important. Let's move forward. Let's talk about spiritual alchemy. Big shout out to each and every one of you that has my 9th book, 111 Keys of Spiritual Alchemy, because this is what our assignment is as Bloodline Breakers. And if you don't know, when you join MU, if you join Manifest Mentorship, you are going to receive copies of all these books. Matter of fact, while I'm thinking about it, let me drop these links in here for you. Again, discount code BREAKER is going to save you 20% at brianhyppolite.com for the next 24 hours. And there's the link for you to join Manifest University, the link for you to get to schedule the Manifest Mentorship intake session, where we get to talk one-on-one and I get to tell you more about the Manifest Mentorship program and ask you some questions, and we really see if it's a great fit. And then also the link to get your Bloodline Breaker book. Those are there for you. Take advantage of those. Use discount code BREAKER to save you 20% for the next 24 hours. All right. So when you think breaking a generational curse is all about habits, you think it's about therapy or journaling or making better choices, or maybe you don't, but a lot of people do. And yes, those things do matter. But what if I told you that this work right here is much bigger than that? What if I told you that you're not just changing your life, you're rewriting your soul's contract? This is spiritual alchemy. If you don't know what alchemy is the process of that scientists came up with of turning lead into gold. It's a refinery process that allows a mineral that does not have worth and value to be transformed, transmuted, or transferred into something of value. So when we're talking about spiritual alchemy, family, we're talking about the process of transforming emotional, mental, and spiritual pain, trauma, limitations into the gold, which is the wisdom, the power, and the freedom. Alchemy isn't about turning metal into gold. No, it's about turning yourself into the highest version of you. It's about extracting power from that pain. And that's exactly what that book's talking about. Do I got one right here next to me? I don't. But it's all about turning your burdens into blessings, your stumbling blocks into stepping stones. I want to give you another understanding when I speak of ancestral contracts. There's a few different definitions or understandings around that phrase. So what I'm referring to are these unspoken and often unconscious agreements to continue with certain patterns, beliefs, and roles passed down into a lineage, even though they no longer serve your soul, even though they no longer benefit your reality. And an example of an ancestral contract is like the women in this family sacrificed their dreams for the family. The men in this family don't talk about their feelings. Nobody in this family trusts outsiders. We just keep it all to ourselves. These are ancestral contracts. These are contracts that are rarely spoken out loud, but they govern the behavior for generations. And as a bloodline breaker, is on you to identify what these are. You have to have what I consider a multi-dimensional view. Like right now, you are living on one timeline, the life that we're in, the life that you know, but your choices have the power to shift multiple timelines. The timelines your ancestors lived, the descendants that will inherit from you, and the alternate ones where curses remained unbroken. I love that movie, Butterfly Effect, Ashton Kutcher. I remember that. I remember watching that and just knowing that this was one of those moments where Hollywood was really telling us something that was absolutely true and absolutely real. You do have the ability to change multiple realms of existence with the choices that you make. Every choice you make is a vote for which timeline you want to strengthen. When you heal, you collapse timelines of suffering that existed before you was born, and that's why it's such a beautiful thing to do. And this is also why this is spiritual warfare. Generational curses aren't just patterns of behavior, they are energetic imprints. Many of us dealt with the fear, the shame, the resentment. These energies get stored in the body, in the family system, and even in the culture of our community. So when we decide to stop repeating them, we're not just making a personal decision, we're declaring war on centuries of embedded programming. And here's the thing about war. Your enemy doesn't fight the weakest soldiers. It fights the ones that can actually win. And you are that one. And that's why you've experienced the tribulations that you have, the traumas that you have. That's why you've had every excuse in the book to give up. Because you're the one that can win. Another word that I want to give you is transmutation. You've heard me say that as I've spoken on the definition of alchemy. Transmutation. This is the act of changing one form of energy into another. In this case, we're talking about changing pain into purpose. We're talking about changing fear into courage. I'm going to give you a good example, and I like this one. I like this one a lot because this is me. I'm going to give you this example of me. Your father's absence can make you bitter. I've seen a father's absence make a man bitter. I've seen a father's absence be the reason that a man is willing to be away from his family and why he doesn't prioritize his own presence in his family's life. I've seen man make excuses for what another man did or didn't do. Your father's absence can make you bitter as a woman, not respecting men and always thinking down on men. Your father's absence can make you bitter. Or it can make you the most present and loving father your bloodline has ever seen. It can make you that homeschool dad that is teaching your children not just how to love themselves, but how to love you and how to love others a proper way. Those you can be the one that decides to start healing what was broken, all because you got to experience the brokenness. That's transmutation. Let's say your family's ancestral contract is silence, never speaking about the abuse, never speaking about the addiction or the mental illness. And you start Manifest Mentorship. You come to Manifest University. Are you get into some type of program that's allowing you to speak on the things that you need to address and release what you need to release? You start going, maybe, for some people it's therapy. You start talking openly about your journey. You create not only a safe space for you, but for others to tell their truth. What you've just done is alchemy. You've taken silence and you turned it into expression and freedom. That's taking the lead and turning it into gold. And you have this responsibility because you have the responsibility of awareness. Because once you see this contract, you can't unsee it. You can't keep saying, that's just how we are, knowing you're lying to yourself. The awareness is the awakening. The awakening demands action. Awareness without action is just another form of avoidance. Awareness without action is just another form of avoidance. Write that down. Again, if you were in Manifest Mentorship, if we were speaking one-on-one right now, we had this time, I would ask you to identify at least one ancestral contract in your family. I would ask you to identify who started this and who benefited from it. You want to know why something happened, follow the trail to who benefited from it and look at who was infected by it, who it hurt and who it helped. Then you'll know why certain things exist. So identify this ancestral contract in your family. Ask yourself who started it and who benefits from it. And then decide, what's the new agreement I'm going to choose instead? And then once you identify that new agreement, speak it out loud. Sign your name on it and make it real. Because the bloodline breaking isn't just choosing self-improvement, it's soul reclaiming. It's taking back everything that was stolen, silenced, or suppressed. It's not just for you, but for every name in your family tree. You're not just the only one that's going to heal here. You are the one that's going to alchemize. You are the one that's going to take the curses and turn them into crowns, take these chains and turn them into blueprints, because this is the sacred work that you were sent to this dimension to do. We're going to give you a round of applause for that. We're going to give you a round of applause for that. We're going to do it right now ahead of the generations that's going to be doing it for you. But they definitely going to be doing it for you. You do the work, they definitely going to be doing it for you. Let me shatter a lie that I know a lot of people still believe. You didn't come into this world as a blank slate. You came carrying centuries of instructions that tell your body how to respond to stress, that tell your mind how to see the world, instructions that aren't even yours. But they belong to your ancestors. And this isn't just a philosophy, this is science. You know, science brings us to epigenetics, the study of how your environment, your lifestyle, and even your experiences of your ancestors can change how your genes are expressed without changing the genetic code itself. In other words, your trauma and your patterns can be inherited, and it can literally be born with your great grandmother's anxiety, even if you never met that lady, even if you was never in her presence. That's science, and science has shown us that trauma can leave a chemical mark in a person's DNA that can be passed down to future generations. Yeah, I don't want to get into a lot of the examples of it, but I do remember reading about these descendants from a famine, these survivors of a famine from Sweden. Their descendants showed a higher rate of heart disease, and diabetes decades after the famine ended. The descendants of these people, like they had this kink in their genetic code that kept allowing them to be accessible to certain diseases. You talk about people who are the descendants of various holocausts that have taken place around the world and throughout history. Their children can be found to have altered stress hormones and stress regulation compared to the general population of people. Your triggers may have been born long before you were. And I mean, because think about it, our ancestors experienced war, slavery, famine, migration, abuse, may have been pre-programmed in your body's reactions before you ever took your first step, ever took your first breath. And this is how it shows up in real life. You have hairline trigger stress responses to loud noises, even if you've never been in danger. You hoard food or money just in case, even when you're financially stable. You feel unsafe in situations where no real threat exists. That's not just personality, that's ancestral programming at work. There's inherited behaviors, repeated patterns of thought, of action, of emotional responses passed down through your family lines and reinforced by your biology and your sociology. There's the double layer of inheritance. The most important to understand is that you inherit patterns in two ways: biology, through your biology, and through your environment. Like I was just speaking on the epigenetics that's telling your body this is how we survive. And then you have your environment that you grow up watching and learning the same coping mechanisms that your family use. Now, more often than not, as we leave those environments that we were in, that we were learning to survive in, we take those coping mechanisms and survival tactics with us. Although we've changed our environments as we've gotten older, as we've created our own environments. But this means that the deck is stacked against you twice, once in your DNA and once in your upbringing. But here's the good news. Epigenetic marks can be reversed. The process of changing how your genes are expressed through internal lifestyle and intentional lifestyle, through your environment, through your mindset shifts. You can turn off those instructions that no longer serve you. I teach you this in Manifest Mentorship, so some of you have already heard it. But healing trauma, that can happen through the emotional processing. That can happen by the acceptance of what took place, by releasing the judgments associated with it, by embracing what it was there to teach you. So we have acknowledging, accepting, embracing, releasing. These things allow you to process through trauma. This allows you to regulate your nervous system daily. And this allows you to create new patterns so you don't have to continue to repeat the old ones. And again, you rewire your brain to override those old patterns. Choosing environments that support your highest self, not your inherited limitations. Your inherited limitations say, what you doing? Getting on that Zoom call, listen to those people talk and tell you those things. Why don't you just come over here and doom scroll on Instagram or TikTok with me? Why don't we go and watch that new series that's on Netflix or Hulu? Why are you going to spend your time investing in yourself when we could be spending our time draining ourselves? That's really, those aren't the words that's coming out their mouth, but that's what they're saying. Let me give you a real world example. In 3 generations of your family, if 3 generations of your family use alcohol to cope with stress, your body may have a stronger genetic predisposition towards addiction. This is something I had to understand, and something I had to accept for myself, and some choices I had to make for myself based off of understanding this information. Because again, once you're aware, awareness got to be followed by some action. If not, it's just avoidance. So breaking that curse means staying away from your triggers, choosing alternative coping methods and mechanisms, exercise, meditation, creative outlets. And this is again about rewiring how we believe and what we believe. If you believe that smoking allows you to get through your day, I've heard people say that the stresses of the day stress them out, and smoking allows them to do that. I've heard, I'll give you a better example. I've heard someone say this about parenting, that they don't know how they would be able to parent if they weren't able to smoke a little bit, and and to get through the day, to take the edge off. I've heard that, right? And there's so many other examples that we can give that people have used as the reason that they use certain substances to cope. And here's the thing about that: anytime that you believe that this substance is giving you the ability to get through your day, you don't want to be wrong. Your consciousness, your ego, it does not want to be wrong. So what it's going to continue to do is give you ample opportunity to be proven right in that thought and that mindset. If you believe that you need to hit some weed or sip on something so that it takes the edge off, guess what? You're going to continuously be confronted with things that put the edge on, just so you have the excuse to use that vice. But you are worthy of a life that does not require a vice. And I want that for you. And I pray you want that for yourself. I remember one of my big homies telling me, if you need to use it sparingly, don't use it at all. If you have to control the way that you're going about it, he says, I choose to not even engage in it. And that, that's a high performance way to go about it. For some people, that's going to be too much for them because they're not used to conforming to and transforming that way. They're used to, well, let me wean myself off it. Let me, whatever. But it's great for you to be aware of the changes that you need to make because of the predispositions that you have, because of where you came from. Because if you don't confront those things, they're going to be there and they're going to be strong. They're going to be dealing with your children. I wasn't raised around my father, but like I always say, his demons knew where to find me. Even when that man did not know my address, he ain't even know where we live. But listen, the energy of addiction knew where to find me. I remember being a kid and just feeling this energy like, you next. Yeah, we're gonna deal with him, and we're gonna deal with you. You can't delete your DNA, but you can rewrite it with the way that you speak it and the things that you do and the patterns that you hold in your life. And it was because of that experience that I had as a child, being tormented and taunted by my father's demons, that I got so super serious on confronting my own so that they didn't have the opportunity to have access to my children. Because when you heal, you're not just healing for yourself to have that better life. You're editing the genetic inheritance of every descendant that comes after you. Your children can inherit resilience instead of reactivity. They can inherit peace instead of panic. They can inherit vision instead of victimhood. This isn't just personal work. This is biological legacy work that we're doing. Write this down. This is another powerful point, that you get to exercise your ability to change a bloodline. I want you to identify a recurring emotion or behavior pattern in your family. Identify a recurring emotional or behavioral pattern in your family. You don't have to do it in this moment, but just write that down so that that's something that you can do. You definitely leaving here with a little bit of homework. Research its potential biological and historical roots. Where did that pattern come from? Where did that pattern come from? It reminds me of that story that you might have heard, because many of us may have heard this, but you know, the mother is cooking ham in the pot, and the daughter, and she cuts off the edge of the ham, the ends of the ham, and puts it in the pot. And her daughter says, "Mommy, why do you do that?" And mom says, "Because my mom used to do it." Grandma's still alive, so the daughter gets on the phone and she calls the grandmother, and she says, "Grandma, mommy says that she cuts the ends off of her ham when she puts it in the pot because you did it. Why did you do it?" Grandma says, "Baby, that's what my mother did." This is a really blessed family. Great grandmother is still alive. So the great grandchild calls the great grandma and she says, "Great grandma, mommy said she cuts the ends off the ham because grandma was doing it. Grandma says she did it because you did it. Why do you cut the ends off the ham?" And what did great grandma say? "Because the pot that we had was so small that the ham couldn't fit in there." That's it. There was nothing special. This wasn't no family secret. This one ain't had nothing to do with making it taste better. There's all these assumed meanings behind this tradition. The tradition came from lack. The tradition came from not having enough space. And it just got passed down. So again, identify the reoccurring emotional or behavior pattern in your family. Research its potential biological or historical roots, and then design a daily practice that directly counters that pattern. Design a daily pattern, a daily mindset that directly counteracts that pattern. And then this is the powerful thing to do. Track your triggers over the next 30 days and note any changes. You got to pay attention to these things, because that awareness is going to give you the ability to make a difference. Your DNA is not your destiny, it's your starting point. And as a bloodline breaker, you have the power, to write new instructions for your descendants. You're not just healing yourself, you're literally upgrading the human beings who will carry your name. Generations from now, someone will thank you for the DNA they inherited. Yeah. Let's be real. They love to post the quotes about breaking generational curses, but they don't tell you what it feels like to actually do it. They don't tell you that breaking the curse sometimes breaks your heart. Sometimes the real cost when you step into this role is that you lose relationships that you thought would last forever. You be misunderstood by people who you love the most. You feel like an outsider in the very family that you were born into. You watch people you care about choose comfort over change, and you can't save them. I've felt the burden before that I pray you never have to feel. I've watched a family member passing away from their own choices, and no matter what I did or maybe whatever opportunities I offered them to have them the ability to change their behavior so they could live longer, it's just not what they wanted for themselves. It's not what they were they weren't comfortable changing. They wanted to be comfort, even though their comfort was killing them, and I had to watch them die. That's the hardest part. Grieving people who you wanted to see saved, who didn't save themselves, or grieving the people who are still alive. Bloodline breaking will have you mourning people that you can still hug. The loneliness cuts deep because you still want that attachment. You still want that connection. You still want to belong. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you got to face this truth. Evolution looks like betrayal to those who are committed to the past. They're not angry because you're wrong. They're angry because you're proof they could have chosen differently. There's a lot of trauma bonds that we've grown up with. And we get out of relying on these trauma bonds when we start to have something different to associate these bonds with. And I call them divinity bonds. Divinity bonds is what you're going to get when you join Manifest University. Matter of fact, when you start to get around more people who are tapped into their healing, more people who are making moves based off of their purpose, you're going to find people who you align with based off of your divinity, instead of those who you have similar traumas with or have survived some of the same things with. You will get away from the emotional attachments formed through repeated cycles of harm. You'll get away from what's common in families, where the dysfunction is normalized. Breaking a curse often means breaking these trauma bonds. And to some of us, sometimes it feels like cutting off your own oxygen, because dysfunction has been the air in your life for so much of your life. And while we're at it, let's talk about this phase that bloodline breakers also go through, which is the isolation phase. Every bloodline breakers go through it. It's the invitation to start slowing down. And it's around this time where the invitations for you to start being in places, they start slowing down too. Family group chats get quiet when you join. You hear about gatherings after they've happened. You become the villain in certain stories that they tell to each other. And not because you're bad, but because you're in their world, and what you're doing, this change is dangerous. And you represent that dangerous change. To the unhealed, healing looks like hostility. So this is what I want you to do. I want you to reframe this loneliness that we experience, because this is the shift that saved me, honestly and truly. I stopped calling it loneliness and I started calling it alignment. Stop calling it loneliness and start calling it alignment. Call it time well spent with the Creator. Call it time invested into your greater purpose. The space you feel around you isn't abandonment, it's clearing. It's making room for the right people. It's making room for the new community, the new teachers, the new partners, the new energy. Isolation is the incubation stage for your evolution. A seed grows alone before it feeds the harvest. At some point in time, that caterpillar has to walk away from its caterpillar friends and go into this place of isolation. I can only imagine it leaving this beautiful, bright, vibrant world and going into this deep, dark place of isolation. I can imagine that cocoon, that caterpillar rather, cocooning as it dissolves inside this cocoon. It literally takes it away from everything that's familiar with it, goes into a place of isolation and dissolves into it. Some of us don't get that far. Some of us just get into the isolation and then we fight the isolation. It's time for you to dissolve into it. It's time for you to relax into it. It's time for you to begin your transformation by letting go of what you've been. From the outside, have you ever seen a cocoon from the outside? It looks dead. It doesn't look like something's growing in there. It looks like something died in there. It looks like it's just hanging there. It's doing nothing. But on the inside, every cell is rearranging into something unrecognizable. And that's you right now. That's you right now. You think that, that you're the only one that can see it, but I can see it too. And they can see it too. And that's why they think you've changed, but no, you haven't changed. You've transformed. Tell them put some respect on it. They can't recognize you anymore, and nor can they identify your new form. So all they can say is you've changed. And you should say that was the plan. That was the goal. Why haven't you? Why haven't you? I was having a conversation the other day, talking to a friend of a friend. And at the end of this conversation, I told my friend, don't bring that friend around me no more. But before we got to that part, I was having a conversation with this man, and we were talking about moving international, living internationally. You know, that's something that's on my radar that my family and I will be doing in the next couple of months. We'll be relocating out of the country, moving to Southeast Asia, Malaysia to be specific. And so I was having this conversation, and this brother was very uncomfortable in this conversation. And his reason for not moving and not relocating or not even being interested in even having this conversation was because no matter where he goes, he's taking him with him, and he's always going to be who he's always been. So it don't matter where he go. Yeah, you're absolutely right, bro. And I'm sorry that you have to live that miserable existence, but you are absolutely right. You are taking you with you everywhere. And since you are determined to be who you've always been, that's exactly who you're going to be. But let me ask you a question. Why aren't you evolving? Why is it that you are who you've always been? Why is it that you're not growing, that you're not changing? He ain't want to hear that. He didn't want to hear that. I couldn't even talk to him from a place of growth and evolution. So I said, okay, so if I can't speak to you on this subject from man to man, and you can't find something within you that makes you want to grow and evolve and mature, let me ask you, father to father, why would you not do X, Y, and Z so that you could provide better for your children? See, you got to understand, there are so many people who will reject transformation because all they know is all they've been, and they're so comfortable. They rather struggle in what's familiar with them than to try to attempt to thrive in something that's unfamiliar. But like I told one of my mentees the other day, I was talking about how she needs to sit down, sit still, and get more familiar with herself so she can answer some questions that's going to lead her to the clarity she needs in her life. And she said, man, that sounds like a lot of work, Brian. And I said, I looked into the camera at the screen and said, you're working open to close right now. You're working open to close. You are arriving before that business opens, and you're staying when the customer, after the last customer ends. You're working open to close for someone else's vision. That's a lot of work. I'd rather work open to close for my own vision. If I had to, I would rather split it 50-50. I'm working a little bit of time throughout the day, learning and getting what I need to in someone else's job, a place of business, or in someone else's company, but I'm spending the other half of my day building my own. But for you to tell me that doing the self-work feels like work when you have committed to your day and your night to someone else's vision, that's crazy. But there's a lot of people who want to do that. So you got to stop seeking approval. Don't expect them to understand a path that they've never walked. What you really need to do is find your tribe. Hello, welcome to Manifest University, Manifest Mentorship. Welcome to this stratosphere of mine, because all I'm doing is connecting the dots, connecting with the people who are on this wavelength of evolution, who don't want to be caught up in that. So again, you're gonna have a new tribe, and you're going to create some divinity bonds with some people who share your vision, your virtues, and your value. Now, the next thing that you also want to do is document your journey. Day one, your story will be the blueprint for others. One of my most powerful books is Manifesting You, 111 Keys of Unlocking Your Divinity. That's the one that's in 156 countries last time I checked, which is pretty dope. Changing a lot of lives. But this was just my daily journal of what was happening in my life, what was working for me as I was changing, as I was evolving. I was documenting my journey of what worked and what didn't work so I could pass that knowledge down. So document your journey, because it's going to be a blueprint for someone else. Hold on to your vision. Remind yourself daily of why you started. That is so important and so imperative that you hold on to your vision, that you make it plain as to why you're doing what it is that you're doing. And then give grace, but guard your space. Give grace, but guard your space. Love them folks. Love them people. Yeah. But don't let them pull you back into old patterns. That's not what we're here for. What's waiting on the other side is that the loneliness won't last forever. That one day someone from your family will quietly reach out and say, I see what you're doing. Can you help me? I wish I had the courage to do what you're doing. And that's when you realize that even when it felt like no one was watching, someone was. Your courage plants seeds that you may never see grow in your lifetime, but they will grow. You're not just losing your family. You're not losing your family at all. Reframe that. You're leading them from the front. So if you feel alone right now, understand this. You are not abandoned. You are appointed. You are not abandoned. You are appointed. You are not being excluded because you're unworthy. You are being positioned because you are the one. The burden is heavy because the blessing is massive. And the isolation is not punishment. It's proof that you're exactly where you're meant to be. And that's in leadership. That's in leadership. The bloodline breaker is more about stopping, or I'm sorry, it's more than stopping the curses. It's about creating the new archetype, a new blueprint of what leadership looks like in your lineage. And you have to identify why the old leadership failed. You see that happening every time there's an election, every time there's a campaign taking place. They're identifying what the previous leadership did that did not work and how they're going to change it. And you as a leader in your bloodline have to do the same. Because let's be honest, most of us grew up seeing leadership defined as being the loudest in the room, being controlling, the one causing the fear, or the one leading from ego. Leadership looked like sacrificing personal health and joy for the family and passing down resentment instead of wisdom. We know someone in our family, an elder in our family, who is frustrated with everybody in the family because they resent the family. They resent all they gave and felt like the family didn't give back to them. They resent the fact that they chose doing such and such for the family instead of what was good for them. And they reach to a later point in life where that really pisses them off. We don't want to be like that. We don't want to be like those people, because the truth is that's not leadership. That was survival in disguise. And they got to a point in life where they couldn't reverse what was already done. They hate that. We don't want that for ourselves. So let's use this ability to not build on shaky ground. I've used this word already, archetype. In case you don't know what that is, this is a universal model or pattern of a behavior that usually others follow unconsciously. The problem is, in most families, the archetype is broken. And when we build, we're building from a broken blueprint. Everything that we're building comes from something that is unstable. So as a bloodline breaker, your role is to create a new archetype. The one that builds on truth, the one that builds on integrity, vision, and execution. So stop being the product of the broken blueprint and start being the architect of the new one. What does your new blueprint look like? I'm looking at the time. I want to wrap up in the next 15 minutes because I want to give you some time for some questions and answers as well. And I also want to respect the fact that you might have something else to be doing this evening or somewhere else that you need to be. And I definitely want to appreciate you for showing up and respect your time. So I'm not going to hold you here too long, but drop a one in the chat if you got some time, you're not rushing, and you here for all this right now. Just so I know. So I want to give you 5 pillars of the new archetype. What's happening, sis? Crystal Dawn. Let me tell you about my sis right now, man. Um, I'd have a I'd have a more extensive criminal record if it wasn't for Crystal Dawn, if it wasn't for this was the friend that when things was going wrong as a teenager, we could run to her house and hide out from the police. So this was the friend that you could call and be like, "Hey, I need you to take your mom or your dad's car and come pick us up and get us out of this situation." Um, Crystal is we've had when your back is against the wall, you call me and I got you kind of relationship since our teenage years, and I love you to life. I appreciate you so much, and I'm glad that you are here because you know we got some generational and bloodline curses to break, and you have definitely been one that has been active and set apart to do so. So I'm glad that you're here, sis. I love you to life. So let me give y'all these 5 pillars of the new archetype. Self-leadership first. You can't lead others if you aren't leading yourself, just like you can't give from an empty tank. If you've been listening to my teachings for any period of time, if you've joined me on enough lives or on IG or TikTok or YouTube or Twitch or wherever, you might have heard me say something like this before when we get to talking about pouring from your cup or giving from your empty cup. Your cup is meant to be overflowed, and you aren't meant to give from your cup. You are meant to give from your overflow. Many of us are giving and feeling empty because you are giving what you are meant to give to yourself. And what you are meant to give to yourself, you aren't fueling yourself, so you're feeling empty. So you continue to pour out, but don't pour in. You are meant to overflow. You're meant to pour into yourself until you overflow. And those that are in your life receive from your overflow. But because you have not prioritized your own growth, because you aren't operating in self-leadership, you can only give from what you have. And what you have is a lack. So you're giving from your lack. And then you start saying things like, I'm not pouring into people who aren't pouring into me. It's no one else's responsibility to pour into you. It's your responsibility to pour into yourself. It's your responsibility to align yourself with what's best for yourself so that you can give. It's your responsibility to prioritize your mental, emotional, and spiritual health on a daily basis. Do not wake up and start getting to the demands of the day. And I'm telling you this as someone who wakes up at 4 a.m. in the morning, just so I don't have to wake up and immediately start getting to the demands of my day. The demands of my day start about 6 a.m. And I at least want a good hour to myself before just me pouring into me or me allowing myself to be poured into by other things. And it's not a demand, but it's something that I desire to do at 5 in the morning from 5 to 6. My demand starts at 6. I have a desire that I want to get to before then. So I'm gonna start that at 5. And before I get to anything, I want some moment to myself. So I'm up at 4. Are you willing to wake up a little bit earlier? Are you willing to cut the day off earlier so you can go to sleep earlier, so you can wake up earlier, so you can prioritize your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual health on a daily basis? That might not be what you call to. And I can hear someone saying, hey man, good for you. That's not me. But whatever it is, you need to prioritize what's going to allow you to grow. It's not just going to happen on accident. If you're waking up and you're instantly responding to the demands of your day, the expectations of your roles, you're not even giving yourself the opportunity to feed yourself. And at the end of the day, you're going to feel burnout. At the end of the day, and then you know what you try to do? You try to come back and circle around and pour into yourself and your goals and work on the things that are important to you. At the end, you try to give yourself the least of your greatness. When you've been tied down and tired out from the day, now you want to start working on your book. And now you want to try to start having these conversations that you really needed your mental facility and clarities for. So model boundaries, not burnout. Show your lineage that caring for yourself is not selfish, it's strategic. I've made sure my children are well aware I'm doing what I'm doing right now for me so that I can do this better for you later. They say, Daddy, why you be taking these naps in the middle of the day? Girl, cause I wake up so early so I can do what I need to for me. I'd rather nap in the middle of the day. That's the real luxury. That's the real boss thing. You wake up, you get to your business, you meet your quotas, and you take your ass a nap. That shit feel good. That feel good. Nap is my new champagne. If you didn't know, for those who know how much I drink champagne, Nap is my new champagne. I'd be like, oh, we had a great class. I'm taking a nap. I don't even need that bottle of champagne no more. I'm taking a nap. We celebrating with rest. Respecting my mind and body's need to rest is the season that I'm in. And I invite you to consult with your soul and see if you are in that season as well. I lay in a hammock for at least an hour out of my day. And no matter where I'm at, I'll take a hammock with me. Wherever I'm going, I got a hammock with me. Like, I'm gonna find some trees or find a structure and pull up my hammock. I'm gonna just lay in this hammock and rest. I've been on go. I've been in survival mode so long, it almost feels foreign to just do it, but it's something that I'm normalizing for myself. You know? So that's vision over validation. Leaders see beyond what's in front of them. Stop waiting for everyone to agree before you move. Stop waiting for blind people to be able to proofread your vision. They're not going to see it. And the wonderful thing about being a pioneer is that you're going to see things that other people don't see. That's the good thing and the bad thing about it. You're going to see things. The bad thing about it is that you're going to see things that other people don't see. But the good thing is you're going to see things that other people don't see. Most of your family won't understand your moves until they see your results. Keep moving anyway. Choose peace over performance. At the end of the day, end the generational addiction to looking good for the outsiders. Choose what works for you over what looks right. Show that stability, not being skeptical, is the flex. Not being the spectacle. That's what everybody wants to be, the spectacle. I'd rather be stability. I'd rather model that for those who are watching me. I'd rather teach through embodying it. Don't just preach values, live them so loud that they cannot be ignored. Your children, your nieces, your nephews, your community, they're watching your moves more than your words. So choose legacy over loyalty. Loyalty to family, loyalty to your family is not loyalty to dysfunction, and we should set that apart. If loyalty requires you to repeat the curse, it's not loyalty, it's bondage. Hear me clearly. If loyalty requires you to repeat the curse, it's not loyalty, it's bondage. Remove yourself from that bondage. If your loyalty to the past costs your future, it's not loyalty, it's a leash. So it's time to go from survivor to leader. Most bloodline breakers start as survivors. They escape, they protect themselves, they avoid the patterns. But the shifts happen when you realize surviving isn't enough. Your job isn't to escape the burning house, it's to build a new one and invite others into it. That's the difference between being a survivor and being a leader. In the old family system, arguments turn into violence. Arguments turn into disagreements and separation. Money is mismanaged. Love is conditional. This new archetype, though, that you're building, model conflict revolution without chaos. Teach budgeting and investing as normal skills. Love without conditions, but keep boundaries intact, but love without conditions. One day, the children in your family will see both ways and they'll choose yours without hesitation. That's my strategy as a co-parent. That's my strategy as, I take that back, not as the co-parent, as one who shares a child with another individual. I have two children. Most of y'all know that. Some of you may not. I have two girls two different mothers. One of their mothers is we have a wonderful co-parenting relationship. The other is a sharing the child situation. There's a big difference between co-parenting and sharing a child. Um, but in the sharing a child situation, it's so important for me to model certain things for my daughter, certain things that she sees, so that as she's identifying, she's 10. So as she's identifying these different methods of thinking, these different ways to react to life, she's choosing without hesitation to follow the example that I'm setting, because she can clearly see what you get going the other route. So that's a daily part of what's embedded in me, is to model what I want you to be, what I want you to see, because you're going to see me do it and you're going to see it works, and you're going to see that other stuff over there and you're going to say, no, I don't want none of that. So that's being the generational architect, the person who designs and builds and sustains new patterns, systems, and standards that benefit the generations that follow. And that's what you are. And this is the role that you're going to step into now, as I'm doing my best to wrap this up. This is how you embody the new archetype. Audit yourself daily. Am I leading myself in a way that I want my children to copy? Audit yourself daily. Create systems, not just habits, but systems, because systems outlast your moods. I'm gonna give you a good example. Even when we talk about waking up early and starting your day, giving yourself to yourself, some people need a good system. Some people, you got to put your alarm on the other side of the room. If you go to sleep and your alarm is your phone, it should be on the other side of the room anyway. It really should be in another room, just because of the electromagnetic energy that's coming out of that phone. That's not good for your body, but that's a whole nother class, a whole nother subject for another day. But there's some people who they have this system. They want to start waking up and working out. So he put his alarm clock under the bed. He has to get out of bed and reach under his bed to put off the alarm clock. Now, while you down there, you might as well pray. While you down there, you might as well just sit on your knees and say some words of gratitude. And then while you down there, bro, get to them push-ups. See, that's the system. That's a system. There's a system of things that you might need to create that allows you to effortlessly flow from one thing to another. Systems outlast moves. Another thing that you got to do. I said another again. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt, because I say that every once in a while. Another again. Document the blueprint. Write it down, record it, teach it. So when you're gone, it's not gone with you. Okay? I move the way that I move. I have been on the I can die tomorrow mindset and mentality. I think most of my life, honestly, if I'm thinking about it, if I'm being completely honest, I grew up with what is identified as a martyr mentality. I grew up thinking that I was going to die early, die for some purpose. It was going to mean something. It wasn't just going to be I just want dying just to die. It was going to happen in some way, whether it was epic or tragic, whatever. It was going to happen in some way that it provoked something. It meant something. I always believed that. But I always thought it was going to be early. I never imagined growing up that I would live to see 40 years old. I never planned on being 40. And it wasn't until I became a father at 30 that I started to imagine myself living old age. Right? It wasn't even until a few years ago that I even visually saw myself as an elderly person. Never imagined myself like that. But as soon as I became a father, I started instilling things in my children to allow them to thrive in a world without me, as if I could be gone today, be gone tonight, be gone tomorrow. And I wake up every day auditing the way that I'm moving based off of if I'm showing them what they need in case I'm gone tomorrow. So document what you need to. That's why these books are written. That's why these conversations are had. That's why these things are recorded, so that when I'm gone, these things are still here. And then another thing, celebrate your progress. Acknowledge your wins, no matter how small, because they keep you and your lineage motivated. The new archetype you create today will become the default for generations. In 30 years, your grandchildren won't even know the curses that you broke. And that's because they'll be living in a reality that you built instead. And that's the point. Leadership isn't about embracing the fight, it's about them never having to fight again. The best leaders aren't remembered for breaking the curse, they're remembered for building the life after it. And this is the action plan. Real quick, this is the action plan. 5 non-negotiables to expand yourself as a bloodline breaker. And then we're going to go into our Q&A. 5 non-negotiables that you need. Again, that's that daily inner work, monitoring and auditing yourself, having that morning stillness ritual, wealth execution. The example of that is a low-cost business that anyone can start. Like, these are things that you should be doing so you can model it for other people. Ancestral rewriting, creating a family history archive. Relationship evolution, choosing a partner who reflects healing, not trauma. Spiritual sovereignty, rediscovering ancestral wisdom outside of the religion that was passed down to you. Stop parenting from guilt. Stop choosing lovers who reflect your trauma. Let's start making some really powerful decisions. Because you know the burden, you know the science, you know the spirit. You know, we've talked about so many of these things that have created the problems that we come from. We've talked about the hows, the whens, the whys. We also talked about the action plan, that daily inner work, the morning rituals, the affirmations, journal prompting. If you can't heal yourself when no one's watching, you won't be able to lead your bloodline when everyone is. Be sure about that. Teach yourself some investing, invest in learning some things, money skills, create 3 streams of income. I remember someone saying, hey, you need to start right now developing 3 streams of income. And that's all you focus on. And I was saying, but I got to work. I got to go to work and I got to do this thing, this stream of income that I already got. And it's like, yeah, you need to do that. Sure. But outside of the hours that you have to do that, you need to be focusing on building 3 streams of income. 1 active, 1 semi-passive, and 1 fully passive. And I'm so glad that I took that person up on that advice because it's changed the landscape of my life, the financial landscape of my life, and the way that my children get to go through life. Learn about life insurance, learn about trust, learn about the various financial vehicles that can assist you in obtaining and sustaining wealth. The environment, your environment is stronger than your willpower. So you might need to change your environment. In closing, this is how you're going to break the curses and start proving that they have been broken. You're going to be committed to thinking different, moving different, attracting different, and most importantly, building different, building a foundation that your family can live on instead of surviving on. I'm going to ask you these questions. In closing, what curses end with you? What curses end with you? Who's benefiting from you staying the same? Who is benefiting from you staying the same? What's one boundary that you will set this week? What is one boundary that you will set this week? I encourage you to journal these questions, journal these answers. See what happens. See what you do with that. Excuse me. See what you do with that. I'm going to leave you with a declaration. I would love for you to repeat this after me. I was chosen before I was born. I am the blueprint. I am the bridge. I am the beginning. I am the bloodline breaker. One more time. I was chosen before I was born. I am the blueprint. I am the bridge. I am the beginning. I am the bloodline breaker. Listen, if you're ready to live this truth, I definitely want to invite you to join MU so you could be a part of my weekly classes and all the other amazing things that's going on within the community. You also get the Bloodline Breaker book, as long as the paperbacks of all of my others. You'll get the 90-day spiritual alchemy challenge. A lot of great things going on. You get access to the Manifest University virtual library, which is hours and hours of previous classes, as well as other things that I knew was going to be highly impactful for you and your journey. I've put the link in the notes. I've put the discount code in there. Discount code BREAKER is going to save you 20% at BrianHyppolite.com for the next 24 hours. If you want to join Manifest University, or if you want to set up your mentorship intake session, if you're interested in joining the mentorship program so that I could work with you individually, one-on-one for the next 8 months, okay? Both of those things have payment plans available for you. And there's also the link there to get the Bloodline Breaker book if you do not have your copy. All right. Listen, I got so much. I got through so much, and there was more that I want to say. I'm just going to leave you with this declaration, and that I was chosen before I was born. I'm not here to repeat what broke them. I am here to rewrite the blueprint. The curse collapses at my feet. The silence ends with me. The fear stops here. The lack stops here. The pain stops here. I am the builder of the new foundation. I am the standard. I am the bridge between what was and what will be. I am the bloodline breaker. Now, I want you to imagine the faces of your descendants, the children, the grandchildren, the great grandchildren, who you'll never meet in this lifetime, that are standing in the house that you built, living in the freedom you fought for, enjoying the peace that you prayed for, and benefiting from the systems that you put in place. And they will never know the weight that you carried to give them that life. But that is your legacy. Your descendants will never, some of them may not even know your name, but they'll know that they live in a world that you built for them. All right, let's open it up for questions. Y'all got some questions? Hit me with these questions. I know it's 9 p.m. No, I'm sorry, it's 10 p.m. It's 10 p.m. Thank you so much for standing in the gap. Thank you so much for being here. Does anybody got any questions? You could come unmuted. You could put them in the chat. Let's get to them. Let's get to them. I'm here for it. What's up? Talk to me.
I got one for you, and I believe you answered this at some point. But for those who are chosen to be a bloodline breaker, what would you advise them to do in order to get past the pressure?
What pressure are we referring to?
The pressure of being, the chosen one, the one that's taking everything and putting everything on their back,
Man, I think it has a lot to do with accepting. I think a lot of times we run from it, or we say, why me? And we do these other things. And I think in that moment, anytime we get to focusing on that, we begin to victimize ourselves. And I think most of us are used to holding on to a victimized identity. So even when we get talking about something that's liberating as being the bloodline breaker, we'll victimize that itself. And say, well, I'm the one that got to do this. And I'm the one that's separating. We'll find some way to victimize ourselves, and that's removing the power from it. So what we want to do is we want to acknowledge that weight, but also acknowledge that we were the ones that was designed for it. I was made, I was made for it. This thing is here to teach me something. It would have made them stumble, but it's making me aware. You know what I mean? It would have broken them down for sure. This would have been a handicap for them, but it's a learning point for me. So it's accepting the greatness. you know, that comes with it, the spiritual giant that you must be to be this chosen one. You know, you weren't chosen because you're the weakest one. You were chosen because you are the one that can do it. And so it's more so identifying with that, reframing how you see yourself, and see yourself as the one that was positioned for for this greatness. So I'm gonna go through what's uncomfortable, but this is the purpose. You know, anytime we get to that space, let's realign with what the purpose is. You know what I mean? Like when we going through it, when we going through the storm, what's the why? Is the why, has the why been identified? Is the why big enough? Your why might need to be bigger if these storms are toss you to and fro. And another thing is to understand that the storms that come in our lives, though, that pressure that we deal with, those are the things that are there to show us what our roots are. Just like the storms that we experience, and in the natural world. Like the only thing that's scared by the wind are the leaves. Like, you know what I mean? That the leaves that are weak, that is, those are the ones that are going to fall off the tree. The weak branches is the one that's going to fall off the tree. The tree don't care. The roots aren't moving. They're not disturbed. So, these storms that come in our life is to move the weak things, remove the debris, and to reaffirm what's solid and what the roots are. So I would tell that bloodline breaker, go back to what the roots are. What's your why? What's the reason why it's you and not them? And we're going to champion that. We're not going to victimize that. We're going to champion that. Did I answer your question, bro?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anybody else? Anybody else got a question? I want to make sure that I get to you.
Hi, I don't have a question. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say this was a great class. I follow you on Instagram. I always enjoy your teaching. And I invited my mother here tonight, and we are excited about breaking generational curses.
Hey,
So
that's
thank
what I
you for
like to
tonight.
hear.
Thank you.
You are so welcome, Michelle. Hey, mama. Thank you so much for being here and being present, because it's so cool when we could do it together. It's so
Yes, and
cool.
my
So,
mother is Michelle Anderson.
okay.
I
Miss
All right.
on
Michelle
my
Anderson,
page.
thank you so much for being present.
Yeah, you're welcome. Let me get. I'm glad to be here, and I believe this is something that me and my daughter should get into. I'm already in something like this. Um, I'm in a covenant group, and it's teaching us about the same thing you teaching us about self-sabotaging ourselves. We got to stop that self sabotaging things, and to be what God created us to be. So
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely. It's great that you're in something like that, because we definitely need that. We
Yes,
definitely need
it's a
that.
tribe. Like you said, we're in a tribe.
Absolutely. And that's what it
Mhm.
takes. That's what it
Yes.
takes. Well, thank you so much for your presence, um for taking the time out to be here with us. We appreciate you and your energy. And I'm just so blessed
Hmm.
for you to be here. Does anybody have any questions? If nobody has any questions, then I will again thank you so much for coming.
I
Uh,
have one question before
yes, ma'am.
you say.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to know, did you did God give you all this knowledge that you have, or was it through your experience in life?
I'm sorry. It was you got kind of muffled in there. So all I heard was the God.
Did God give you this knowledge that you have, or was it through experiences? Did you experience a lot of things to get this knowledge that you have?
It would definitely be both. There was definitely things that were divinely installed into me, for sure. But then
Mhm.
there's definitely have been some life experiences, with good and bad ones, that have led me to this knowledge. There's
Mhm.
definitely been a lot of failures that have led me to this knowledge and the understanding of the execution that it takes to do these things the correct way. But
Mhm.
it's definitely been God-given knowledge and understanding
Yes.
that I came here with, and that I can't even take credit for, because and it's always been here, and it's always been in me. And
Mhm.
you know, over as I've gotten closer to God, God has shown me more, revealed more to me about myself and about my mission and about the ways that I have to go about my life so that I can fulfill my mission. So it's you know, all praises be to the Most High, because I definitely can't take credit for it, and I'm just grateful that I was one of the people that could learn from these
Mhm.
experiences instead of being victimized in them and overtaken by them.
Yes.
Thank
Well,
you for that question.
I'm sure I am amazed. And thank you again for this teaching, because you really taught me something.
Oh, awesome!
Mhm.
That's what I was here for,
Mhm.
to teach and to pour into you. So, if that's what you got from it, then I did what I was came to do. I woke up this morning. I prayed that this class was going to go exactly the way it meant to, and it has gone exactly the
Mhm.
way it was supposed to. And I'm grateful. Thank you for being here, and for being in receiving mode, for coming in receiving mode.
Thank you.
Absolutely. I'm going to make sure that everyone receives an email a little bit later this evening that will include a link to this recording. Um, some of you, depending on how you got here, you will be also receiving the Bloodline Breaker ebook, as well as the Manifesting You workbook. And I look forward to getting those in your hands. They're going to be powerful tools that's going to help you. Um, but I gotta say before I get out of here, tomorrow I release a new song called "Wound Man." Well, it's not a new song. This song is really about 6 or 7 years old. But it comes up a lot of times. People ask me, you can like, well, how come I haven't released this song? I think it was only available on like one platform or something like that. But it was very popular on that platform, and so I've been asked, particularly by women, uh, when is this song going to be available? So it's going to be available tomorrow on streaming platforms called Wound Man. And it's a song of love and respect and admiration to the Black woman. So I believe you're going to enjoy that. Um, Thank you again for participating in this class. If you're ready for the accelerated path, definitely link up with me and join the mentorship. I look forward to working with you and getting whatever's in your way out of your way. Shout out to everyone in here that's from Manifest University, the Mighty MU. Thank you for everyone that's in Manifest Mentorship, everyone that's been supporting my music, my books, my classes. I love y'all to life. Thank you for showing up and showing out. Thank you for being the bloodline breakers that you are. So I'm going to let you go. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Till next time, thank you again. And I look forward to seeing you evolve and be that bloodline breaker. Be great, be powerful, be God's.
Good
Later.
night, everyone.
Night.